You're in Hokkaido, basking in the resplendence of a high-tech hospital and spa. You're sat in your nice, cozy kimono, taking in the gorgeous mountain view, ruminating on the perfect way to end the life of Yuki Yamazaki. Only there's a problem. There's no perfect way. As she storms about the facility with a face like thunder, she's always accompanied by two rather dangerous-looking gentlemen, and due to heightened security, you have nothing on you bar your wits and a snazzy robe. As you explore the place, seeking out any information that might aid you, you overhear a conversation between two chefs, talking about how fugu is off the menu due to a high-profile death, and that Miss Yamazaki has repeatedly requested it. Long story short, you're the chef now. Yuki gets her fugu. Minutes later, she drops dead, and you're several buildings away seeking out your next target, and no one's the wiser.
Psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? Fa 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 fa. Better run, 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 run away. Oh.
This episodic approach to IO Interactive's legendary series was met with nervous trepidation on its announcement, but needless to say, the final result was an impressive return to form. A sequence of intricate clockwork dioramas where the player is given a staggering array of tools and playstyles with which to take out their prey. You can kill with anything ranging from a dropped chandelier to a bullet to the head, and the player is rewarded without prejudice. What makes Hitman 2016 particularly impressive, however, is its move away from the traditional power-heavy focus of its contemporaries, without sacrificing the power fantasy itself. Rather than making the player avatar a dominating force of nature that can bend the environment to their will, Hitman treats both its targets and its game worlds as the thing to be fearful of. You have to be on your guard, on your toes, and ready to abandon your plans at the drop of a hat if the timing's not right. Because you are a hostile element in an unfamiliar land, and you are absolutely not welcome. This makes it all the more satisfying when you do pull off that perfect hit and get that silent assassin rating. Because Hitman understands that there is a distinction between having power and feeling powerful, and it uses this to great effect. On paper, Agent 47 is certainly not what you'd call a weakling. He has his garrote wire and his iconic silver ballers, can hide himself in a variety of locations, as well as cause distractions and disguise himself to avoid detection. He even has his own take on the now industry standard detective vision. But what distinguishes the barcode Baldy from the Horde is that his power is encapsulated in premeditation, not reaction. And this comes to the front line when, in the heat of the moment, he goes from Angel of Death to Mr. Bean. An awkward, shambling scoundrel with two options to his name: stay, fight, and in all likelihood die, or run away and hope they don't find you. This is not to say that you're immediately screwed if you get caught in the act, but that switch from unseen to seen drastically transforms the game into something it's really not cut out to be. And that's absolutely the point. One of the biggest criticisms of previous entry Hitman Absolution was how easy it was. You can see the origin point for a lot of 2016's ideas in it, but given the smaller playgrounds that are littered with hiding spots, the relative ease of the shooting and close quarters combat, and the fact that Hitman Vision prevented you from being detected while in disguise, the whole game was a bit of a cakewalk. Not bad by any stretch, but just not what the series fans rightly expect. 2016, by comparison, stripped away a lot of the comforts and upped the challenge. There's no get out of jail card, enemies notice discrepancies a lot more, and there's a ton of open space you have to work your way through undetected. And if you are detected, you can fight your way back to normality, but a few small touches force you to acknowledge your mistakes. You don't get spotted right away. There's an admittedly quite generous period of guards going, "Hang on a minute," indicated by a white bar. Move out of their field of view before they get suspicious, and this won't affect your final score. But there's a psychological impact to this, and many times over I have failed a mission because this small white bar rattled me enough to cause me to screw up. And if you are caught in the act, sure, you can pacify the hapless fool who noticed you, but unconscious witness stays on your screen, and you have to decide between hiding the slumbering babe at the cost of a detection penalty, or killing them outright at the expense of your no-kills bonus. And what's brilliant about these two touches is that detection isn't punished in the traditional sense. In Hitman, you are rewarded for completing the task at hand. The degree of competence with which you complete said task is ultimately irrelevant if all you want is to progress through the game's main narrative. But if you don't take the mission seriously, you can't get that silent assassin rank, and as a result, success just doesn't feel as good.
Congratulations, Agent. You are cleared for field duty.
Because of its weight shifting in favour of premeditation, Hitman plays very differently to other stealth games. You don't need to have tight reaction speeds and a deft hand, just situational awareness and good timing. It's not about escaping into the shadows, it's about not being seen in the first place. You know, the kind of skills a real-world Hitman would have. A great number of stealth games adopt this pilgrim in an unholy land mentality in their settings, giving the player context for their objective. Metal Gear Solid had you infiltrating a military base. Dishonored put you in the shoes of the kingdom's most wanted man. Even Beyond Good and Evil had you hidden and under siege. And these are good stealth games. Dishonored in particular holds up as one of my all-time favourites. But in each of these instances, I wouldn't say that the power fantasy comes from a place of control. Whether you slip by undetected or kill everyone in sight, the narrative and gameplay aren't quite in sync. The power fantasy causes problems when you're expected to believe that you're in a fraught, often dangerous situation, but happen to have the skill and mobility of a god. Inversely, when the game ups its challenge and forces the player to reckon with a constant bombardment of danger and the risk of fail states, does success necessarily equate a sense of feeling powerful? I don't think so. Your time with Agent 47 sits somewhere in the middle, not oppressively hard, nor banal in its ease. You aren't fragile, nor do you ever feel invincible. In fact, it does something interesting that I've rarely seen in these kind of games. It uses challenge to reward skill, rather than punish its absence. When you finally get what Hitman is all about, when you finally click with its pacing and understand how the various pieces of the puzzle fit together, nothing feels greater.
Welcome to Marrakesh, 47.
This is why Hitman's backwards take on the power fantasy is so impactful. By earning success in the face of overwhelming odds, the sense of achievement feels so much more gratifying. But with this extra caveat that Agent 47's presence at each of these locations is an act of willful autonomy, not a reaction to external forces, a vulnerable entity that is always in control. That's a feeling of power you just don't get very often. But wait, there's more. Because Hitman's challenge is wonderful the first time you run through, but as wide and intricate as its levels are, familiarity risks diminishing returns. As you spend more time in each of the game's 6 areas, you commit more to memory, be that the location of emetic rat poison, or of an aptly placed guard whose clothes you want. How do you maintain a sense of risk and mystery when you know the world inside out? The answer is that Hitman's episodes aren't just standalone missions. They act as a hub for a much wider range of challenges, multiple approaches to the game world, extra targets to take out, and community-created content that is genuinely great. The best of these, however, are the escalations. Single-run missions you can't save and load, where you're given specific instructions on how to dispose of the target. They start off innocuous enough. Kill a guard, with a knife, while dressed as another guard. Something any player worth their salt could achieve. Then the escalation starts, and what began as a simple task becomes increasingly complex. Now you can't be spotted by cameras, or you can't pacify anyone. The risk of guards seeing through your disguise exponentially increases, or you might be burdened with environmental hazards. In one particular mission, I quickly completed the first 2 levels with relative ease, but was then caught out by the 3rd escalation, which required me to have the pistol equipped at all times. Not just on my person, but in my hands for all to see. This additional rule forced me to rethink my entire approach to the mission, which is exactly what the system needed to avoid feeling like a grind.
How are you?
Because these missions have to be completed in one go, you really have to be paying attention to the way your environment changes with each rung of the challenge ladder. Within the blink of an eye, a mission can go from simple but challenging to something only the most seasoned of players could possibly achieve. And they are either brilliantly frustrating or just frustrating, depending on your level of skill. These escalations manage to solve the problem of diminishing returns in an unobstructive way too, and opt in for extra challenge that still lets those less confident players enjoy the game with that save and load safety net. And this is a remarkable achievement, producing a product that appeases both hardcore fans and first-time players without compromise on either side. In Hitman 2016, IO Interactive created one of the best realised power fantasies, a game that somehow managed to be challenging but not punishing, complex but accessible, and above all else, really bloody fun.
What's that crack? You got static?
That's not it.